Welcome back to the It Starts With You podcast. I am so excited to welcome Scottie onto the podcast. Scottie and I have been connected online for a while, and she's now a member of the Speaker Academy, helping her to get her message out in front of more people, which we are going to talk about today. Scottie, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. I am really excited. I love your podcast. I love being a part of your program. I just love your energy. So this is really such an honor. Thank you.
Oh my gosh, I'm so excited. And here is our disclaimer. A lot of what we're going to talk about, this is for the women and moms who are listening in. But listen, if you are a man listening into this episode today, please don't shut us off because I think that you're going to get a lot of great things to consider as you support the women and maybe moms in your life. So I want to introduce Scottie or meet Scottie Durrett, a passionate and dedicated mom of three, a certified health and life coach, and the creative mind behind the Inspiring Momplex podcast. Make sure you check it out. As a reformed mommy martyr, Scottie understands firsthand the struggles that moms face, from dealing with fear and perfectionism to sacrificing their well-being. Scottie's journey of overcoming mommy martyrdom, did I say that right? Martyrdom?
You did. Yes.
Equips her with deep empathy and insight to assist moms in similar situations. She is a certified health and life coach who is well versed in techniques and strategies for handling life's challenges effectively. Through the Momplex podcast, Scottie motivates and empowers moms to reclaim their passions and find their space, leading to their discovery of joy and newfound confidence. Let Scottie be your partner on this transformative journey where you'll unlock your true potential, find balance, and step into a life filled with joy and confidence. Scottie's journey from mommy martyrdom to empowerment proves that change is possible, and she is here to guide you every step of the way. See, like for those of you who are listening who are moms, I think you got hit in the feels with just even that bio, Scottie.
I get it. I wrote it from the heart. There's a reason why I'm doing what I'm doing. So
Oh my gosh, it's amazing. And I know you and I have talked about this obviously in, your journey and our time working together, but I would love if you could share with those listening about what was your turning point as a mom where you decided to stop being that mommy martyr? Because so many women, so many moms can relate to this idea. So share a little bit about like what was going on for you in your life and what was that turning point that you're like, nope, I can't do this anymore.
It's such a great question, and it's such a vivid moment in my life. And it really is that moment where I changed paths, and I love talking about it because it felt like a very ordinary day of the week, right? I'd gotten up, jumped out of bed, immediately went to the kitchen, started getting my kids ready for school. My teenager had left the milk out all night, and it was organic milk. So, it cost me a fortune. And, but I lost it. It was not even 8 o'clock in the morning, and already I was yelling, I was screaming, we were running late, and I finally got them out the door, and I started, I closed the door behind them. Great, have a great day at school. I'm so glad you're gone. I was so relieved that my kids were out the house so I could turn around and go start checking things off my to-do list, right? Just like a good mom should. And I was walking through the house, picking up all the dirty clothes off the floor to go wash them and start the laundry, and my body just froze. And I just was clutching this laundry basket, and I could hear this voice in my head that was just saying, seriously, is this it? That how this day is going so far? Is this really what's going on in your life? Because now I'm done having kids. My kids at this point were middle school and elementary school. So we're not having other babies, right? There's no newness coming in. This was the routine. This was the life. And so I could almost see myself 5 years from that moment doing the exact same thing. And before I realized it, I had kind of slid down. I was on the floor, right? Just kind of like frozen. And I didn't realize it. I just had tears streaming down my face. I think finally because I just hit this moment where my body kind of stopped on me. I think my ego wasn't letting me ever question how things were going, but my body was finally like, we can't go on. My body and my heart maybe were just saying, we can't go on like this. And in that moment, one thing that was really important to note, I didn't have the answers in that moment. I didn't figure it out right then and there. That aha was just that's what it was. It was an aha for me. And I remember calling my husband. I said, babe, I'm not doing well. I love you. I love our kids. I'm not happy. So I just need you to know that I'm going to start trying to find I'm just going to try and start to figure out what I need right now so that I can feel better. And that's all I basically said. I didn't tell him why I wasn't feeling well. I didn't tell him here's what I'm going to do tomorrow. I just needed him to know, and I needed to say that to myself. And so, yes, I had that kind of epiphany moment, that tipping point, and in that moment nothing was solved. But I knew at that point I could not stay where I was. And that was my first step. So I love sharing that story because I think a lot of times for moms, they wait for change until they have everything mapped out. That's not necessarily how it needs to happen. I think it's so good to sometimes just say, hey, I think I want to just learn some other things, and that's really where that started. So that was I call that my moment. My laundry basket epiphany is what I've called it.
I love it so much. I know that when you first told me that, when we were talking about bringing this into your talk, it's like, oh, as a mom, again, I've heard you talk about, it's like, it still hits me because it's like that laundry, what'd you say, that laundry basket epiphany?
Basket epiphany. Yeah.
It is, because like right now as we are speaking, I have mounds of laundry baskets. Like here's my deep dark secret, all of you listening, is I don't want to use hate because it's such a strong word. We strongly dislike laundry in this household. My husband and I both are good at dishes and things like that, the laundry. So that laundry, just the idea of the laundry, I'm like, I know I have multiple laundry baskets right now, and that feeling that you get. So when you tell that story, and I know I'm not the only one, but so many important things that you just shared that I want to highlight is, first of all, how relatable that is for so many people. But also I love that the two things I really heard you say is like, you let your husband know, I'm not doing okay right now.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I don't know what to do with that right now, but like letting him know that. And then also I love that you said you didn't have all the answers and have it mapped out, but it started with that awareness that it was like, I can't do this anymore. I don't know what the next thing is, but I can't do this anymore.
Yeah. That was such a big thing. And it's at the time I didn't understand that. Right now I can look back on it. It's been such a really important part of my messaging, I think, for us as moms and as humans and as women in relationships. Just that, the first beautiful step is just to even say the words out loud, right? And not keep it stuck inside. I think especially as a working mom, as an adult, right? We're trying so hard to build this incredible life for ourselves and for our family. And it's really easy to shoulder a lot and think, gosh, if I shoulder it and just swallow it and ignore it, then nobody needs to know about it. And maybe it'll go away, or maybe I'll just get stronger, or maybe I'll just learn how to cope and to deal with it. I think that moment when we decide, just even those sharing the words, even if you can't say it to somebody else, write it down. When you get them out of your head onto a piece of paper, there's something when you look down, you're like, oh my gosh, yes, I'm daunted by this, but I'm still bigger than this. I'm stronger than this. I'm stronger than I can handle this. And I think it just makes it feel less daunting. But a huge part of my mission and my coaching that I do is that practice of communication. I think when we really start to include the people in our life, not only with what's hard on us, but what's also what we're working toward. I think as a mom, it's so important for our family to see how we pick ourselves up when we fall down, what our goals are and how we're working toward that and why they matter to us. And that some days we need to just, have fun and have some grace. I think that's so important for our kids to see us as more than mom, that we are real people that have real interests and real emotions and real needs. And the way that we include our family in that is by talking to them, is by speaking up, which I love, is by practicing, hey, here's what's going on with me right now, right? I want to include you in the good, the bad, the messy, the ugly, the pretty, all of it. And it just makes you feel less alone. And it allows the people in your life this beautiful opportunity to support you. When I called my husband, he didn't have the answers either. He didn't know he was at work. I mean, I'm probably interrupting a meeting. I'm like, babe, I'm not doing well, but nothing for you to do here.
Yeah.
I think he just said, babe, I love you. Let me know how I can help. Even just knowing that like our life is going to still go on. Like nothing is falling, nothing's going to fall through the cracks or fall apart just because I need something different. And that was also really helpful.
I love that you share that, because when you said that before, I was going to ask, how did your husband respond? Because I think so often too, as women, we do just kind of like we keep either shoving it down or say it's fine, or sometimes just expect or assume that our, spouse or partner in our life is going to know that something's wrong. And, there was a recent situation too, same thing. It's like running a business and, kids and health things and all of these different things. And I remember I had this moment where I was like, I'm not doing okay right now. Like I'm feeling stressed and overwhelmed. And I remember saying that to my husband and like, hey, I'm not doing okay right now. And he was like, oh, really? Like almost this, like, I didn't realize how intense it was for you right now. So how did you feel when, or what did he do, I guess, when he got home, and like, how was his response as you started to make changes in your life?
It's such a good question. He was at first incredibly fine. He received it great. My husband and I, we want the best for each other ultimately. But like you said, we are living very different lives. He works out of the house. So what he's focused on, what his priorities are, what is distracting him, what's keeping him up at night, very different than what's keeping me up at night. And I have found that the more we, like you said, just include, like the more we are privy to what everybody is going through, the more we can offer compassion and support. And then ironically, you feel like the person is reading your mind, right? When he came home from work, he just gave me a hug and he's like, babe, thanks for calling me. I don't know what's going on with you, but I'm so glad. Whatever you need, whatever we need to do, we will do this together. And it was just very much letting me lead the way. And so I don't think he felt this pressure that he needed to do anything differently. And I don't think he felt that I was putting that on him, which actually felt nice for me because I didn't know what I needed. So I didn't necessarily need that pressure to have all the answers. And he wasn't demanding that of me. But I think he was just kind of giving this, like, you have an open book here, right? I want you to go try stuff. And he was, do we need therapy? Do we need marriage counseling? Do we need someone to come and help you with the laundry? Because clearly that's a triggering point for you, So I think it was just, I think I felt seen and heard and understood, not only by myself, but also by him. And to your point, I think it's easy for a mom to just wake up and turn on autopilot, and they become the default parent so much. And so it feels very normal to carry the weight of the world on your shoulders. And what happens, we usually just share with other moms who are also feeling the same way. So there seems to be this kind of reciprocity that, oh yes, no, I am also tired. Yes, I am also feeling frustrated and I don't feel like myself, but we don't have solutions here. We're just complaining about it. So I have to say that I did own that awareness and decide to put some energy behind those feelings, that it wasn't just another day to complain. I actually realized, gosh, I think I need to do something. Something's not working. I don't know what that is yet, and I don't know what I'm going to do tomorrow, but I don't want to wake up and just have the same day. And I think that was a shift in energy, which is also why I probably went to my husband rather than calling my best friend.
Yeah. Well, what I hear you say, it's like you made the choice then. It's like not only did you identify this is where I'm at, but you made the choice that it was like, okay, now something needs to change. It was
Now
like that
something needs to
moment where it
change.
was. So what were those things then, that knowing that, you can't just, as much as I think we would love to, just like snap our fingers or like switch on a light switch and be like, okay, all these things are different. What were those steps that you started to take?
Well, I really had to admit that being a stay-at-home mom was not enough for me. And that was hard. We're told by our caregivers, by society, by movies and books that, gosh, what a blessing. You get to become a mom. This is you're a vessel. This is your purpose. This is your passion. This should be fulfilling. And I think that was part of what had exhausted me and led me to burnout, was that I was ignoring that voice that, yeah, while I love motherhood, that actually is not fulfilling enough for me. And I had to admit that. And that was scary for me because that, I had to go through that. Does that mean I don't love my kids? Does that mean people are going to talk bad about me? Does that mean people are going to look down on me? And, who do I think I am that being a stay-at-home mom isn't enough for me? So there was a lot of that healing and conversations. I did a lot of walking outside in nature. I did a lot of, took a social media break, really tried to quiet the noise. I just listened to a lot of music that just, made my heart feel good. I started to listen to a lot of self-help podcasts, and I started to journal and just really get clear on like, what is missing? What am I longing for that I'm not giving to myself? And one thing that really helped me a lot was closing my eyes and really connecting to what was a point in my life where I did feel fulfilled. What was I doing then for myself that I'm not doing now? And one of them, I had a job. I was working. I was making my own money. I was connecting with other human beings. I was having different conversations that had nothing to do with nap schedules, carpool schedules, and what we're putting in the lunchbox. I love all those things. And, this is I'm not in the mission of saying that there's a right or wrong way to mom. I think the opposite. I think there is no one way, but the goal is to find your way. And when I realized, gosh, I need something else, an outlet outside of being a mom, what is that? And it's just like, that was a huge thing for me. So I realized I need to go back to work. I need to find a way to have a job. And so the first thing I did was join a network marketing company because it was right around COVID. And I figured, gosh, I can still be the stay-at-home mom, but I'm going to start to nurture this desire to have a job and be outside and have something else outside that's just mine. That was really important to me. And that was that first chapter, I guess, that first initial from the aha.
Yeah. And I love that you share that. I work with a lot of high achieving women, whether they are women executives in corporate who have these high level jobs and these careers. And, some of them are moms, or they're, business owners, and they're managing all these things. And we also often have this conversation when it comes to our coaching and things like that, because we're trying to juggle so many things and the pressure that we feel. Yeah. And also this idea of what you talked about, which, I think we've gotten better in general in society of talking about this, but opening the conversation around it's okay if you want to stay home, and it's also okay if you don't. And I remember, when I became a mom, so my son's 7 now, and when I became a mom, like, I loved that time home with him, but I knew that I could not be home with him all the time. Like, I just knew it. I was like, I love to work. I want to work. And I don't know about you, like, sometimes I still have moments where I'm like, I have like little glimpses where I'm like, oh, it would be nice to just get to take care of the house. I know I don't mean just get to, because I know how hard that is, but in my head, this is what I say to myself, is like, sometimes it would be nice to just worry about packing the lunch and doing the laundry and not like business development, all these things. And then the next moment I'm like, no, that's not for me either. And also, that's so freaking hard. Like, it's just this conversation that I feel guilt sometimes either way.
Yes. And the guilt it's prevalent. And I think it's something that we just need to know, that certain things like fear and guilt, they're always with us. They're always with us. And and I don't think there's any shame around that. It means that you care. It means that you care so dang much, right? That if you're going to put your heart and soul into being a mom, into running a business, into being a CEO, that means you actually are going to give all of you into that thing. And so what happens when you're giving all of you into one area of your life? Inevitably, there's going to be fear that you're going to fail in another area. And then there's guilt that you're ignoring another area of your life. And I love what you said. It's okay if you feel a certain way, and it's okay if you don't feel that way. And here's the most unbelievable thing about motherhood. It's okay if you change your mind. Yeah. It's okay if when your kids are, a certain age, you don't want to be home. And it's okay if they get older that you do, and I think that's a beautiful thing that we have available to us now that maybe our moms didn't have available, is that we actually can truly design a day that feels really good to us. And I think that's what's so cool about all these available jobs. Half the jobs our kids are going to have actually don't even exist yet. Let's just think about that for a second. Like, there's just so much opportunity for us to go out there and really figure out, what is my dream? I'm going to make it happen. Sure, it's not going to be easy, and you have to go out there. There is no roadmap, but that really starts with that, just really being honest with yourself about, what do I truly need to thrive? What in all areas of my life, mentally, spiritually, professionally, sexually, all of those things. Like, what do I truly need so that I can show up as my best self today? That is the formula to help your kids show up at their best. And I am that firm believer that what we desire is meant for us. We don't desire, you and I do not have the same desires. We're not the same person. And I truly, this is what has helped me so much with that guilt, right? If I desire to have a job outside of being a mom, there's a reason. There's something in me that needs this kind of connection and nurturing. And if I take care of that, if I honor that, that's actually going to help me show up as a more present, more peaceful, more calm, more engaged mom. So ultimately, the payback is for my kids truly all the time, right? So it's, but that, it takes practice. It takes practice. When you become a mom, you're very insecure. You don't know what you're doing. So you appreciate following the formula of the people who went before you. And there's nothing wrong with that. But also just, over time, just making sure you're creating space to hear your own voice as well, I think is so important.
I love that. Yeah, hearing your own voice. Like sometimes we buried it so far.
Yeah.
And sometimes you're like, oh, you get like a moment, you go, oh, there it is.
There
like,
it is.
There I am. Like,
yeah.
I call it like coming home. Like you're coming back home.
Oh, I love that.
What did you, so when you started doing these things, obviously, so the walking and journaling and, listening to podcasts and taking more time for you, how did your kids react to that? And was there any type of, not backlash, but like, if you're taking more time for you or you're changing the way you're doing things, like how did they respond and how did you handle that?
It's such a great question. And my answer is probably going to surprise you. They didn't notice anything. I love kids. I love our kids, but they are so self-centered, as they should be, right? They are on their own path. And as long as they if they are still being supported and nurtured on their own journey, they really don't care how that happens, right? And, my kids I will say they were old enough that they were in school. And so I really focused on learning how to take care of myself and my kids simultaneously, right? Like that was one of my biggest goals. I didn't want to pursue this and knowing that something was going to fall through the cracks with my kids. So logistically, my husband and I did have to talk about, does that mean if you're going to start working, do we need more help around the house? Or do we need to cut some things off of our schedule so that you're not trying to just layer a new job on top of a really busy schedule? So there was some, decluttering, there was some rearranging, there was some communication. And I do talk to my kids a lot too. I let them know, hey, Mom's going to start this new thing. You might see some skincare around the house. Mom might have some events and you're going to have some other moms in here. They're like, great, I don't care, whatever. But one thing I did hear, two things that really have resonated a lot with me. The first one was I remember having a conversation with my daughter. She's now 17. And when I started to, I guess, come home and find myself again, she was 13. So she was a little bit younger, 12 or 13. And I remember one day I was in the kitchen cleaning up and getting food ready for her. And she said, you know what, Mom, I don't think I want to be a mom. And I was like, okay, honey, tell me why. I'm so curious. And she says, well, you look miserable and you're always unhappy and you yell a lot. And I was like, okay, that's it. Yep. Okay. Yes,
the
I
real
can see
honest kid.
they'll point out the gray hairs and the crow's feet and they'll let you know. And I was super calm the way I received it, but that was such a massive aha for me because then I realized I'm not living in this vacuum, right? Shouldering all these emotions and feelings, and I'm telling everybody I'm, quote, fine, but they can feel it that I'm not. And, I guess a year after I started taking more awareness about what it is I needed, she started talking about having kids. She started talking about like having her own family and wanting to have 3 kids. And I never really pointed it out. I just said, hey, about me. I just said, hey, what's changed? She said, I don't know. Motherhood looks kind of fun now. I was like, that's incredible because I'm the mom. I'm the mom that she's watching. I'm the mom that she's seeing. So something in me has shifted enough where she has now completely changed her perspective on this. And they have told me too that I don't yell anymore. And that was a huge thing for me. I didn't like yelling. That's not typically how I've always acted and communicated in the world. So the fact that I was yelling at my kids, the people that I truly would step in front of a train for, I'm like, why is that good enough for me that I'm yelling at them when I wouldn't yell at a stranger who cut me off in traffic? And now I don't yell. We don't, the energy in our house, we don't ever fight and yell and have combative. Now I have teenagers, we're a normal family.
Yeah.
but my energy has just mellowed. I feel more
Yeah.
zen. I just feel more, and I feel like now when I'm engaged with my kids, my stuff isn't involved in that.
Yeah.
I'm like Switzerland. I'm
Yeah.
just neutral. But
I love what
those
you
two
say that, like,
things,
energy
yeah.
in the house, because as moms, we really do. I mean, dads do obviously, and the kids, everybody contributes to the energy of the house. But especially if you're the one, caring for the kids or leading things, or, schedules and managing those things, like, your energy impacts everybody in the house. And so I love that you
That's
say that, where it's just like you found yourself being in this more, I mean, we talked about obviously nervous system regulation, how dysregulated we can get as moms, where it's like all of a sudden you just have this trigger, like this thing, you just like lose yourself and you're yelling and then you're feeling guilty, and so many important things, and the shifts that you started to see. And I love that you said that your kids didn't really notice. And I think that's really important. I want to highlight that, because
mm,
I think so many moms are worried that if they start to take that time for themselves, like, what's that going to do to their kids? Or,
mhm,
what if they think I'm being selfish, or whatever you might be
mhm.
telling yourself, when in reality, like you're saying, most of the time they probably won't really notice, other than that you're able to then be more present with them when you are with them, or that you're happier, or that, oh, mom's trying something new.
Yeah. I think it's also really important for, your kids to see that you care enough about your well-being, and that you set boundaries around that, and that you speak up for yourself, and that you do have a life and an existence outside of them. I think not only are they getting such a beautiful model to, so that when they become parents, they realize, wait, I can take care of myself and raise my kids. My mom did it. I saw her do that. But
Mm-hmm.
on the flip side, it's so important for our kids to know that we don't exist for them. We're living with them. I never wanted my kids to feel this responsibility that they were in charge of my purpose and my happiness and my identity, because what I want is for them to always look forward on their path. But if they're worried that their decisions are going to directly affect me, they're always going to be looking over their shoulder, second guessing. And I never wanted that for them. They're here to live their life, and I'm in charge of my own. And so I need to be responsible. If I'm not doing well, that's on me. If I
Yeah.
need something else, if I'm not happy and healthy and taking care of myself, it's nobody else's responsibility, least of all my kids. And so for me, I thought it was such a beautiful example, especially for my daughter. Absolutely speak up for yourself. Absolutely take care of yourself. Your well being is just as important as everybody else's. Just because you become a mom doesn't mean that you matter less. Right. And I think that's such an important message for us to always share. And now there isn't a tether that keeps my
Yeah.
kids responsible, and vice versa. When they leave the house, I still have purpose. I still have an identity that's outside of being their mom. I'm still
Mhm.
Scottie. I'm still me. Being their mom is just a part of my life. It is not who I am. And that was a
Mhm.
big maturity and growth that I went through. And it's something that drives me every single day,
Yeah.
truly.
What would you say? So, you went from like, okay, I'm going to do this for myself. You took the steps, and then you can look back and go, wow, look at how much I've changed. And then you decide, okay, I don't want to just do this for myself. I want to help other moms with this. So, what did that look like? What did that process look like? And also with that, what do you see when you're working with your clients? Like, what's the thing that's keeping them the most stuck in actually putting some of these things into place?
Such great questions. So when I started healing myself, and nobody's fully healed ever, but when I started on, just getting to know myself again and just reconnecting to myself, it just felt so darn good. And so I started talking about it. I just started talking about it to friends. I started talking about it on Instagram, because remember, I was doing network marketing. So I was on
Hmm.
there for self care, right? So I started just talking about this as part of that whole process of self
Hmm.
care. And then I started a podcast, the Momplex podcast, because I figured, gosh, if I'm going through this, maybe another mom is too. And it would be so nice if we started to lean on each other rather than judge each other, right? And like really start to share our stories. Because gosh, what if something that a mom shares could change another mom's life? So I thought if I created a podcast, I could really get the message out to other moms. Through the podcast, I started to get moms reaching out to me saying, hey, sounds good, but how? How do I do that? Like, I love what you're talking about, but I've tried all the things, nothing works. I don't know how to actually implement this. So can you help me? So I went back and got my certification in health and life coaching because I figure, gosh, if I'm going to do this, I want to do this. Like what I was saying before, I want to do it with my whole heart and soul. And if I can help other moms not reach that breakdown, but to make tiny shifts every single day that will help them start to build their resilience and their confidence and their strength, just even in the tiniest ways, how that is going to just, they're going to look back and say, oh my gosh, I can't believe this was possible for me. I'm so glad. So that's honestly just really how it came to be. The cart before the horse. There was no real order to it all. It just kind of started to organically develop. And now that's just constantly my goal is how can I reach more moms? How can we start these conversations? And, just even not even necessarily saying that you have to start a conversation to work with me. I just want moms to know that let's be real. Let's actually say how we're feeling. Let's stop with the I'm fine feel, because that's not even a feeling. Let's experience life, all of it, because it's only going to help us love motherhood more. It's going to make motherhood easier. And it's actually going to help us be the mom our kids deserve, honestly. So that's truly where that came from. And then your second question, I think a lot it could go into a couple of different angles, because I think that's time, it's energy, it's money, it's opportunity. There's a lot of excuses, but those to me are just surface, right? There's always, it's so easy to say I have no time, I have no money, my kids need me, because that means it's somebody else's fault. That means it's outside of you. That means it's external. And it's easy to blame the external because then you don't take responsibility for that, right? I think the biggest thing is this fear of self-worth, that we are worth more than motherhood, that we are worth following our heart, that we are worth satisfying our desires. This gets a little deep, but for so long, women have been told, all the way back to the first stories that, our desires can be very dangerous, and they could cause a lot of damage, and it could hurt a lot of people. And so there's this fear that if I go after what I truly want, am I neglecting my kids? Is somebody going to get hurt? Is something going to fall through the cracks? Because it all falls on me. And if I go after my desires, oh my gosh, what if I don't get it? What if the person I ask for this thing, they say no? What if I'm rejected? So there's this lot of fear of failure, fear of pain, fear of, rejection, and fear of the work. We're so busy. We're so exhausted. The idea of starting a new habit just feels so daunting. So it's easy to say, I'll focus on me later. I can power through this for another 5 years. I'll get to myself later, when I have more time. So there are a lot of beliefs that moms have to work through, and I had to do the same. I had to work through a lot of those beliefs, and it doesn't happen overnight, but it happens, and it's possible, and it's the most freeing feeling in the world when you realize, wait a second, taking care of myself actually helps me take better care of my family. I didn't know that. And that to me is, so it's not an easy thing to do, but which is why I really encourage just opening up and just even starting the conversation, because I think when we realize other moms are having similar thoughts, we feel less alone and we feel less wrong.
Yeah.
We feel like what's wrong with me,
Yeah, and I love you say like this fear and these beliefs that we have, and because I feel like moms who do sacrifice themselves for their kids are in society or perceived by perceived by other women as they're almost like championed and cheerleaded, like, oh, look at you, you never miss a field trip, you never forget to send something to school, you never miss pick up. And for those of us who, and I've always been like, I'm extremely fortunate to say that like my husband is a very 50-50 partner. Like I think we have maybe a unique relationship compared to others that I've seen, where it's like from the beginning, he has been in it, and like we both need alone time. So we both get alone time.
That's awesome.
And like I have always been like, I need alone time. I need time for myself. So I, from the times where I was young, I had time by myself and taking things. But sometimes I feel like that also comes with judgment from people, or it's like, oh, you're not as mom enough. And so What would be, because I also think of some of my clients who I'm working with who, again, are running, businesses or careers, and they might also be feeling that like they can't make it to everything because they've got other things
It's hard.
going on. They've got travel or businesses. What do you tell your clients if they come to you and say, like, okay, Scottie, I'm doing these things, I'm taking time for me, or I'm running my business, but now I'm feeling like I'm not mom enough?
I'd say it's hard. I'm not going to lie. It's just being a working mom, building a business, running a life. It's very difficult because there is a different expectation that maybe society and our friends and parents before us have put on us, but also for ourselves. I don't care how business you are, your mom, right? So in order to get out the door, think about the 30 things you have to do to make sure that the soccer practices are happening on time. They're getting picked up. There's 30 things we have to do for the house, for the dogs, for the kids before then we can go take care of ourselves. I'm not sure that my husband worries about those things. I think he can just put on his shoes, walk out of the house, kiss us all goodbye, and let us know when he's coming home from dinner. And he also is an amazing partner. He's great. It's just a different internal expectation
Yeah.
that I
And the
think is built
mindset, like I
in the
call like the mother
mindset.
load, like that's in
The
there.
mother load. I call that, yeah, the invisible load, right? Like
Yeah.
there is a different mindset. And, I think the first thing I would say is have a conversation with your partner, right? And just identify some things where you could feel a little bit more evenly distributed and let them know. I think when we share our goals, first and foremost, like, hey, my goal is to create this incredible, thriving life for our family. In order for me to do that, here's some things that I'm going to be working on for myself.
Yeah.
Does this fit into our life? Does this fit into our capacity? Do we have the space for this? Are you on board with this? Do I have your support and vice versa? Not permission, but it's kind of like we've got to do this as a unit. And I think the more you can communicate, you feel like you're in a team and you don't feel like you're out on this island trying to do it all alone. And the more I communicate my goals and the more I include my family, the less mom guilt there is because there's less resistance from them. They're like, go get it, mom. Go, we love you. Let us know how it goes. Or my husband's like, hey, what do we need to do? Like, as long as there's awareness and really communication, then you don't feel like you're by yourself. I will say that it's one of the first things is to just like quiet the noise, stop listening to the podcast for a couple of seconds, get off social media, close your eyes. And what is that dream day? What is that utopia life for you? What does it look like? What does it feel like? What are you doing with your family? How is it coming to be? And there might be some hard decisions that maybe getting to the 1 p.m. trumpet concert on a Wednesday might not be possible. But what's something else that you can do? Right. And I think there has to be some, I guess, ebbs and flows, some flexibility, right? In order for us to create that perfect, I hate using the word perfect, excuse me, that utopia life. Just
Yeah.
because it's out there doesn't mean we have to do it all. And just because we can doesn't mean we should. We have to be really selective with our time and energy because I promise you at the end of the day, if you ask your kid, when they're older, do you remember me being at the trumpet concert or do you remember me snuggling with you, being patient, loving every second, enjoying you? They're going to say enjoying me. They're not going to notice if their soccer jersey was folded or if the baseboards are clean or if you made it to, the bake sale. But they are going
Thank
to
goodness on the
remember.
baseboards because
I
ours
know,
are
because I don't do those anymore. But I will tell you that they will remember that you not only loved them, but that you liked them and you
Yeah.
liked being
Oh,
with them. And how can we do that? And I think that's what it's like, how can I do that then? How can I show up as the mom and Scottie that I really truly want to be so that I can soak it in? So I can truly enjoy them and not be just checking time with them off the to-do list so I can go to the next thing. It's, but these are tough conversations. These are hard, like gut-wrenching, heart tough conversations. But when you spend the time to to make those, to define that, to write in your journal, what does a wonderful day look and feel like to me? As long as you're working toward that, gosh, then you're crushing it. You're doing it. You're doing it. And I think defining that success is so important for us.
yeah, that's a huge thing. So taking that time, like, what is your dream day? So for those of you listening, if you're like, "Ooh, where do I start?" Like, okay, I'm feeling this, Scottie. Like, you're getting me in the feels, as I say. But it's like, what do I do? Like, maybe that's like your first step is for you to just actually go like, how do I want it to be? If I don't like how it is right now,
Yeah.
what do I want it to look like?
Yeah.
And
What
getting,
do I miss? What am I
yeah.
wishing for? And if you can't even answer that, then I would say close your eyes and think back to a time when you woke up and you felt great. You felt good, or you liked the way that you felt. What helped me realize is like, what am I not doing for myself now that I was doing then? How can I fit that back in? What do
Mm,
I need to remove off of my calendar to fit that back in?
I love that. Fit that back in. It's not
Yeah.
like have to change everything, or it's just like slotting it back in.
Yeah. And you don't have to work harder. This is not about pushing to burnout. This is not about, oh my gosh, I have to, this is not about, in order for me to, fuel my desires, go after my dreams, I have to become more of a superhuman. I have to do more and multitask more and shoulder more. That's actually not, that's actually not what's going to help you get to where you want to go. Sometimes we do have to step back and say, from a mature perspective, like, what do I need to let go of that's no longer serving me? What doesn't serve my dream day? What is keeping me from that? What is holding me back? Is it that that I have no boundaries, that I'm saying yes to everything, there is no joy in my life. I don't have time for friends or sleep or feeding myself or moving my body, or I don't have time to just go to dinner with my husband or my partner, or I just don't, it's like, what are we missing that's really going to help us wake up and love our day versus getting through the day?
I love that. What do we need to let go of? I think too, there's just this idea of we always have to add things on, but it's like, maybe
Yeah.
what do I need to release and let go of?
Yeah.
So Scotty,
Yeah.
if you had, if you can, sometimes, I don't know if I asked you, sometimes I ask my clients this when we're getting to your core message for your talk, because obviously you're bringing all of this into this amazing talk that you're getting out there to more,
Yep, 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 yep.
women. But if you could shake, let's just say a mom right now, maybe it's like one of the moms listening, if you could just shake her and tell her one thing, what would you want to tell her?
I would put my hands on her shoulder. First of all, I'd give her a hug and I'd say, look, I get it.
This is a loving shake.
This is a loving shake. I get it. But I think it's just, why wait? What are you waiting for? If you're waking up and you don't feel as good as you want to feel, let's do something about that today, right now. There's the one thing that we're losing all the time is time, and we cannot get that back. So what is one thing we can do today that's going to help you just feel a little lighter, a little less overwhelmed? Like, even if it's just, gosh, go for a walk around the block, right? Just like, what is that one thing? But there's so much of this. I'll just focus on myself when my kids are older. I'll have more time to take care of myself when they're, out of diapers or in school. And the one thing I can tell you with a 17, 15, and 11-year-old, it doesn't ever get less busy. That mythical, magical time where all of a sudden your husband just reads your mind and you have all this energy and you have all this time, it actually doesn't just magically fall in your lap. You create that. You create your husband reading your mind by talking to him. You create relief in your day by, taking some things off your plate and adding some things on there that are going to light you up. You create the balance in your life. I think one of the things for moms to realize is that everything you want is available to you. You create it. You don't have to wait for permission or another date or circumstances to change. And in fact, I say the busier you are, the better. Let's learn how to take care of yourself when you're at your busiest so that you can feel incredible dealing with it right now. And then just imagine how good you're going to feel when you're not as busy. But let's not wait. I think that's just probably the biggest thing. Just, no, today you matter. Say, I matter right now.
Oh, I love that. I love that. Why wait?
Why wait?
I'm going to have everyone like pause here and like listen, like just sit with that. Like, why are
Yeah.
you waiting? Scotty, thank you so much. I feel like we could talk forever because I'm like, oh my gosh, we could go in so many directions. But I know for me personally, there are so many things like people can see me writing when they're watching the video here of the episode because I'm always jotting things down. So many things for me to take away. Every time I, listen to you, follow you on social media, I'm like, oh, that's such a good message. So thank you for sharing this with us and
Thank
your
you.
story, but also to inspire and give actionable things for those who are listening on what they can do. Because I know so many people are feeling this. And I think a lot of these women and moms that follow me are going to want to stay connected with you. So share with us a little bit of what do you have going on and how can people find you and stay connected?
Oh, thank you so much. I love it. Well, as you said, I spend a lot of time on Instagram. That's probably one of my best ways for you to reach out to me. Follow me. I'm always in my DMs. I just want to, I'm there. I'm ready to listen and connect. And I just want to I want to start these conversations, right? If something's on your heart, I'm a safe space. I have my podcast, which I love. It's called the Momplex Podcast. It drops 2 episodes a week. And I'm always just diving into these kinds of topics. Anything that's I've gone through. I have a lot of beautiful humans that come on. They're experts in ways for us to, how can we help ourselves? How can we help ourselves figure out what we need to thrive so that we can bring that into our life as moms? It's just my constant goal of just like churning, we get what we give out. Let's give out the best. And I'm one-on-one coaching. I also do group programs. And my goal, honestly, is just to find a way to help a mom in the way that she needs it the most. And so there isn't actually a one size fits all to my coaching either. It's really getting to know that client, understanding, gosh, this is how you need my support. This is what we're going to do right now. And this makes the most sense for you. But I just want moms to know that they don't have to continue on feeling this way. There's always a solution, and they don't have to find it alone either. So. And
We'll
I'm in your group, and so I'm working on my keynote so I can go out there and reach more moms and share my story, because I think the more we can speak up and honestly and just tell the truth and speak from the heart, I think the more healing and more connection is available.
Yeah, and getting that message out, people know they're not alone and there's something you can do about it, because when we all, I love that word, like healed, when we're healed and we're full, well-rounded humans, like we can only bring more and more of ourselves and our energy and our love and our creativity to the world and everything that we do. Oh, so amazing. So make sure that all of you who are listening, please make sure that when you're listening to this episode, you share it, tag Scottie, let her know, send her a message and let her know what stood out for you. We'll drop all of the stuff in the show notes as well for you to follow along, and make sure you check out her Momplex podcast with so many great conversations. Scottie, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you. I loved it.